Nigeria's Debt Management Office has rolled out a 50 billion naira Series 3 sovereign green bond to finance environmentally sustainable projects with a 5-year tenor and subscription window from June 16 to 18th. That's today. Bond targets investments in renewable energy, clean transportation, afforestation, water access, and climate resilience. It marks another milestone in Nigeria's climate finance journey, coming on the heels of the 2019 issuance, 95% of whose proceeds were reportedly utilized by March 2025. As Nigeria signals its commitment to green growth, analysts are watching closely. Is this just another debt instrument or a genuine push towards climate action? We have Godson Ikebi, Senior Manager, Sustainability, Sustainable Finance and ESG, PwC Nigeria. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's begin with the details of, and we'll have you, of course, some other time in the future as well. But let's begin with the details of this particular bond, referring to the size. 50 billion naira in size, closes today. And it was a short issuance, duration. It was open on Monday, it closes today. How do you see the results being, again, the amount, 50 billion, and then the duration of time for which, subscription was open for?
Okay, let me start by saying, I think first, this is a top green bond. In 2017, under the Buhari administration, we issued the first green bond, which was 7 billion, and proceeds of that bonds were meant to be used. The first green bond were meant to be used for renewable energy and afforestation projects, which includes carbon sequestration in Nigeria, that's tree planting, and mini grids, which is part of renewable energy. So the second green bond was 15 billion, which is about, in total, the green bond 15 plus 10.7 plus 15, that's about 27 to about 10.7 plus 15, that's about 26.something billion that were issued in the past. And that was supposed to be used for afforestation, renewable energy, which includes mini grids and all that. But again, I think there were some challenges because we're supposed to have issued the green bond again, but there were some issues in terms of the use of proceeds. Because what happens is that when you before you issue the green bonds, you develop what we call the green bond framework. So the green bond framework is what drives the bond in terms of what the bonds will do. It talks about the eligibility criteria, the management of the proceeds, the use of proceeds, and the governance and impact assessment to be impact reporting on what the bonds was used for and all that. And I think there was some challenges in terms of reallocating the second green bond, which again you just said that they didn't exhaust that till March of this year. So now we have a 50 billion naira green bond, which I think is the 10th tranche, but the plan is to issue a fourth one ahead, which is going to be in October, which is about 250 billion. So the plan is 300 billion this round, Series 3, 50 billion, Series 4, 250 billion. That's what I had as a plan. Now, if you adjust for inflation and all that, is the 15 billion being issued even comparable to the 26.something billion being issued? I would say no, considering the exchange of today and the inflation. But in terms of being able to actually get subscription from the bond, looking at 3 days, possible, because first and foremost, when you want to issue a bond, you don't just go to the market to issue a bond. Like I said, you do the green bond, you also engage with stakeholders, institutional investors. So apart from the individual investors, the core of the investors who are going to be investing in this bond, because an investment is a debt. Nigeria is going to the market to borrow $50 billion naira to address its sustainable development challenges. So, as from a climate perspective. So now, what are the things we want to address? We are borrowing 50 billion to feed into renewable energy, clean transportation, which is CNG. That's the focus for now, the presentation of CNG. Also, we are looking at that to also address the challenges around afforestation also, which also clearly is part of what we want to achieve in terms of addressing that. And also basically those are the stuff that we're looking at to address in the procedure. But again, we look at that value, we'll say the value is not comparable to the past. But again, in terms of the institutional investors that will be able to ensure that we can be able to ensure by today that there will be no extension, definitely government will have engaged, the DMO office would have engaged the pension funds, the pension regulator, who would engage the pension fund administrators, then the NICOM would also be engaged to engage, for example, insurance companies who engage insurance companies, and also the CBN also could engage banks who could also buy some of this debt. And again, it's cheap for the government. So the green bond offers is priced cheaper than the conventional vanilla bond. And so, because we are putting it out there because we want to address a problem. So it's not also only about, for example, for the investors, making profit from the bonds, from the debt that they are going to buy, but also the investors also addressing environmental sustainability concerns. In this case, climate concerns in Nigeria, which will lead to economic development, create jobs, and also help us address issues like climate mitigation and adaptation. That's why the bond is focused on climate mitigation and clear cases of adaptation.
All right.
So that's basically what it is.
I mean, you've addressed a wide range of issues, justifying the amount, 50 billion naira, and of course the duration as well. We'll get around to the incentive for investors and their returns. But aside what the lenders are getting out of it, we know that the government is borrowing. They are the debtors in this case, and they're borrowing to invest, as you have said, in climate action. What are the metrics that we can use to measure their returns on this investment? So we can't say money is going down the drain.
Okay, for example, the bond that is being borrowed, which is the green bond, is going to be used to address the commitments Nigeria has made. Nigeria as a country has made.
So Mr. Godson, yeah, so I mean, you've highlighted what it's intended to do, but this is Series 3, right? We've had several green bonds before. How have we been able to measure how efficiently that debt has been used to address, what it's meant for?
Okay, I get your question. Let me come from here. So we've had some of the challenges we've had in the past. But I think before going to the market now, because there's a Nigeria Green Bond Development Program, which is an initiative of FMDQ and FSD Africa. And that program is meant to develop Nigeria's capabilities and competencies in not just also only issuing green bonds, but also measuring and tracking and reporting what the bond has been used for. And again, when we're talking about the green bond, the essence, like I said, is not basically for the financial angle only. It's both finance and the environmental and social impact to society. And so, what are we going to be measuring? So we're going to be measuring the impact. For example, when we deploy, let's say, the renewable energy initiative, which has to do with, for example, solar power, when we deploy that initiative, the first thing to look at when we are measuring, we're going to be measuring the communities those initiatives was deployed to. We're going to be measuring the number of people that are going to benefit from that. We're going to be measuring the jobs that have been created through that initiative. We're going to also be measuring the emissions that have been reduced or avoided through that initiative. Same with the presidential initiative on what's it called, on the CNG. What are we going to be looking at? Job creation, looking at job creation, looking at job creation, looking at the reduced emissions from that initiative, and looking at the number of people that initiative will benefit from that initiative. So when we look at afforestation, we're also going to be looking at reduced emissions, in terms of reduced emissions, maybe the number of trees that will be planted, reduce emissions. So that clearly what we're going to be reporting, and these are what will feed into the impact report that will come out at the end of the process of the green bond. So because we're supposed to do like a yearly report until you exhaust that procedure. So those are the things that we didn't account for in the past. And I think that the DMO office is aware of this, very aware of this, and clearly going forward, they are going to be accounted for in terms of what because it's already documented in this process is already documented in the green bond framework. So it's basically going to your framework to report what you have done based on the progress being made, spending, and also get an independent verifier to verify this that's actually been done. So that's basically what is going to happen in terms of tracking, measuring, and reporting of the framework. So that we can be able to assess that this actually, the government has met the clearly what is stated in the green bond framework.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, it is Nigeria that is doing the borrowing here. So hopefully we get more accountability.
Yes.
Right. So hopefully we get more accountability with that report at the end of when they finish spending the money, well, at the end of the year. Hopefully we get that report. Now let's come to investors, right, who are investing in this green bond.
So it's only a 7-year tenure. It's a 7-year tenure right here, 7 years.
Right, so after 7 years. So let's come to investors. Obviously, what is the incentive in it for them to be attracted? There's so many investment options right now. What is it in it for investors right now, even though the window has closed?
Okay. Well, the investors, the specific investors who are interested in investment like this are normally called impact investors. And also the DFIs, for example, the development financial institutions are also very key, local and foreign DFIs. And also others that are keen are also the MDBs, the multilateral development banks worldwide. So even though it's a Naira denominated bond, green bond, it doesn't take away the fact that we can get foreign investors to invest in it. The DFIs, impact investors and all that. And also Nigeria's impact investors and DFI. So why are they motivated? Even the commercial banks. And there's another institutional investors, like I said, like pension funds administrators and the asset managers and insurance companies. So why are they interested in this? Yes, the yields might be not as the yield from in terms of the normal vanilla bond, which is not focused tied to environmental or social issues. But one thing that we are addressing, because of the ESG conversation, the sustainability conversation, and the integration that is required for these organizations in the financial sector to integrate ESG risk and opportunity in their core credit analysis and in their lending and investment processes, which is very, very important when they are making decisions. So this is part of the game. So this is reported, this will be documented as a sustainability initiative, also not finance initiative by this investment company, that they have contributed to this, despite the yield is not as, so there's more, yes, there's a financial gain, then there's also the sustainability positioning by these organizations, which will also even lead to more interest from other investors into the same organization who are interested in businesses and organizations or institutional investors who will drive environmental impact in society. Because we're talking of environmental and social impact, job creation on one hand, employment opportunities on the other hand, the reduction of climate change on the other hand. And this is the cause. So we are having a bond that the proceeds will be used to address climate reduction, mitigation, climate adaptation, climate resilience, job creation, increased opportunities for people, and which will boost the economy. So that in itself is an advantage to all investors who come into this, an advantage for them also as investors to be able to attract investors also who think that these companies are actually committed to a broader conversation around sustainable development rather than a narrow path to financial gains. So that's basically what this brings about.
Impact investing, you call it. We're going to continue with this conversation, especially highlighting some of the sectors that will benefit from this, as well as allegations of greenwashing. Stay with us for more. It's still Business Edge. All right, we pick up our conversation with the federal government's issuance of the 50 billion Series 3 sovereign green bond. We have joining us Godson Ikebi. Thank you for staying with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for continuously having me.
Yeah, obviously you've highlighted, the impact, of this bond. It's for impact investors, what it's supposed to do. Let's come down to the sectors that will be most impacted by this bond. What specific sectors in Nigeria will benefit from this bond?
Okay, the first sector that will benefit from the bond is the energy sector. So we'll have increase, because one of the things we're trying to do, because we are Nigeria has mapped out its energy transition plan, and in its NDP, the National Determined Contribution, NDC, we have also mapped out clearly sectors that we consider very carbon-intensive sectors that we need to reduce our emissions from. And one of that sectors is the energy sector. And clearly, and to do that in the energy sector, So the government is pivoting one, renewable energy, solar use, solar, then water, renewable, also there's solar renewable energy, there's hydro renewable energy, there's wind renewable energy. So in terms of that, this bond, based on the bond statistics, about 15 billion naira of these funds will go to renewable energy. So development of mini grids and installing energy, power in communities that are underserved, and so that Nigeria can be able to reduce emission and reduce the impact of climate change and create jobs and create opportunities directly and indirectly. So that's the sector, which is very, very important. So the question is 15 billion naira enough, again, which I said that the second Series 4 is coming up in October, which will be 250 billion naira. So that's one sector, and very, very important. The other sector is also tied to energy, which is clean transportation. We're looking at transportation sector. So the government is already planning the budget initiative of CNG, which with 15 billion, that 15 billion from this month will be used to pivot that initiative so that we can have more convertible cars and vehicles, and also invest in more CNG cars. So that's one, and CNG use generators and other. So that's one area that's going to again, which reduce our emission, creates jobs and opportunities for Nigeria. So that's another sector.
Obviously, it appears the energy sector is going to benefit the most from this bond. But finally, before we let you go, what signal is this, in just a minute, please, what signal is this sending to, the international community, as well as, in the context of allegations of greenwashing, that deceptive marketing strategy of debt?
Yeah, that is why our last two bonds, the reporting was challenging, and that is what we are trying to avoid. And I think that's why we're taking this long to come back and say we are ready for another green bond. And we don't just want to go to the market and say Nigeria is the first country, as we did, or Nigeria continuously issues green bond, but we want to go to the market to say we are committed to environmental sustainability. We are committed to social sustainability. We are committed to proper governance mechanism to drive sustainable finance at the sovereign level. We are committed to ensuring that we achieve the just transition. That are the paths to meeting our national determined contributions, commitments that we have made, and the net zero commitment we have made, and the just energy transition commitment we have made. And in doing that, I am very confident that with the process that we have put in place, with the monitoring that's going to be put in place to monitor, and the independent verifier that will verify these views, we will not fall into the trap of greenwashing.
All right,
we will
so
not
verification.
say we did spread, so that's it.
So verification, hopefully we have more evidence to match the talk with this drive and the green bond. Thank you very much for joining us.
And as Nigerians, we also need to put pressure on the system.
Indeed.
We need to put pressure,
and that's
we need to hold the government accountable and ensure that we monitor this process.
Thank you,
because our fault, we are borrowing for us.
Thank you very much. Because of our time, we do have to go. Godson KB, Senior Manager, Sustainability, Sustainable Finance and ESG, PwC, Nigeria.